Hi, welcome to the Crafts channel. My name's Corinne Bradd and today I've got a cute little fun project for you. It's a little cat purse with a popper, just to put a bit of makeup in, maybe a small phone, your house keys, or for a child you could add a strap to it so that they've got a little handbag. And it's made, the first one I made I thought would be much simpler and actually didn't look as good as the second one I made that seemed a bit more complicated. So I'm going to go and show you the more complicated method, which isn't really complicated, so don't be put off by this. But I will put a template in the description below. You basically have a cat head back, a cat body which forms the pocket, and a cat face which forms the flap. And you want to cut those pieces, adding seam allowance, from the same colour lining fabric, and then you want perhaps the same colour for the back and the pocket, but a different colour for the face, so you've got some contrast there. So first of all, you want to put your glasses on so you can actually see what you're doing. You want to put your face and the back of the purse right sides together and match up between the ears and on the template I will put a couple of little marks which you want to transfer onto your fabric because that's your start and stop line for stitching. Try saying start and stop line for stitching when you have a lisp. It's not that easy. And we'll just sew from those marks around the ears, across the forehead and back to the next mark. And take care not to over sew the mark. For the points of the ears, rather than sew an immediate angle, give yourself one little straight stitch in between there. Makes it a lot easier when you're coming to turn things out if you don't have such a point. So come up to the point, put your needle in, turn your flywheel one stitch straight and then come back down again to that other mark. And then before you do anything else, you want to clip at the base of the ears where they join the forehead, and you want to just trim away the excess fabric at the top of the ears so you don't get too much bulk when you turn it the right way out. So lift your cat's face up and actually we'll just pin that out of the way before you then place the pouch part right sides together with the rest of the purse. And then we'll sew down just below where the flap is. There you go. So you can then turn, I won't do this fully, but you can turn your ears out, you can turn your pouch out, and there, as you can see, you've got the beginnings now of your purse. So with the lining, I've sewn them together, the lining pieces together, in exactly the same way. So from point to point, and these bits here. But the only difference is I've left a gap in the seam of the bottom edge, and I've folded over those edges, the seam allowance, and glued them to make a gap. Leave your lining wrong sides out and take your properly turned out outer, put your outer inside your lining, just pop the ears up there in place and pop the pocket inside the pocket. And then carefully match up, I don't know if you can see this on the overhead camera, where you've got the top of your side seam for both the lining and the outer. Match up that side seam and fit a pin in there, and then come around and match up the other side seam. And pin that also. And then we're going to stitch the front edge of the purse together first. You can stitch this whole thing together all in one fell swoop, but I lack the confidence to do it because it's quite a tight little job. And because also the purse isn't large enough for me to get over the bed of my machine even when I take my accessory drawer off, I'd rather do it in two halves, so I know that I'm not getting anything caught up underneath that I'm not spotting. Couple of lock stitches. And just sew a little bit at a time so that you can flatten out that fabric as you're stitching it. And stop stitching when you reach that side seam. You can see probably more clearly on the lining fabric here. So you've run a line of stitches from the top of that side seam all the way along the front to the top of the opposite side seam. And then fold your ears to the part that you've already sewn. And this is why I say it's easier to do this in two halves, because you then want to bring the flap pieces together, again at the top of that side seam. And then stitch the flap all the way round. So make sure that there's nothing caught underneath it, there's no folded fabrics caught under there, and just position your needle by hand and do a couple of lock stitches. Until you get down to the other side seam. And then, providing I've done this right, you should be able to pop your finger in the gap in the lining and pull the outer through, which will then also bring the flap of the cat's head through. Just before you sew up the gap in the lining, just put your finger in the inside the ears of the lining and push them up into the ears of the outer. Sometimes I play these videos back to myself and marvel at the ridiculous combination of words that I use when I'm doing these demonstrations. But you know what I mean. Ears of the lining into the ears of the outer is perfectly acceptable. I'm just going to cheat and sew up this gap with a zigzag. But a hand stitch and a matching thread would be much, much neater. And then you can push your lining into your cat's body. You can manipulate out the curve of his face and just give it a quick press. Essentially, once you've given that a proper press, you end up with a beautifully lined up, straight edged cat purse. And then all I would do is, if you find the centre of your cat's head, about there, make a hole in the flap and the front of the pouch. Grab yourself a little black set of press fasteners. So you've got 2 drawing pin pieces and a male and a female part. Pop one drawing pin in from the inside of the pouch through the hole that you've made. And fix either the male or the... I always tend to put the female part on the inside. Give it a squeeze to fix it. Pop the other drawing pin piece from the front to the back and pop the male part on top and clamp it to fix it so that you have a popper on your purse. And then the other thing you can do, which I'm not going to do today because I have neglected to bring any black embroidery thread with me, is just sew some little whiskers either side of the nose, and they are simply done with knotted thread to there and then knot, clip off, knotted thread and clip off. Don't be tempted to sew backwards and forwards, because what will happen if you do that is if you pull on one of the whiskers, it will tighten up all the other ones. So there you go. A neat little project, very charming. A lot easier to make than you would originally think. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you'll come back and see us again very, very soon. Please subscribe, because then you can see when we put a new video up each month. Each week. And let us know what you think of the videos. We've got lots of stuff coming up. We've got a whole lot of stuff that we've done in the past. So please have a delve through our back catalogue, and hopefully you'll find something that you enjoy. Till then, please keep safe, and thank you very much for watching.